We are out here at Bundy Hill tonight to talk about Leave No Trace ethics. I'm Alexis. I'm the Development and Outreach Coordinator for Chippewa Watershed Conservancy, and Caitlin is our dedicated and amazing intern helping us out with the program and with tons of other great things. And so what kind of prompted us to do this program is being a presence in this part of the community. We want to be positive, and as a land conservancy and as a nature preserve, we really want to be promoting healthy environments, and we want our users and just the whole community in general to kind of take ownership of this public nature preserve. So we've gotten recent reports of trash along the roadsides and in the parking lot and along the trails out here, so we just wanted to come out and give some education on best practices for interacting with the environment. And there's kind of a Bible of best practices, if you will, called Leave No Trace. And those are just a set of ethics. They're not really rules or regulations, they're just kind of ethics that you can follow for a variety of situations to help kind of guide you towards the most appropriate behavior in the wilderness or the front country. So this is front country, obviously. We're not deep in the wilderness, and we're really accessible up to the road, and we're kind of just a day use area. So those front country rules, I'll just go through really quick, and then we're gonna kind of hit the trail and check some of those out in action. So basically, know before you go, stick to the trails and camp overnight appropriately, although we don't camp out here at Bundy Hill. Trash your trash and pick up poop. So we do allow dogs out on Bundy Hill trails, but we need to be cleaning up after our pets. And any trash that we bring out, we want to pack it out with us. If you're familiar with Bundy Hill, there's no outhouses or trash cans or anything out here. So everything's kind of just whatever you bring needs to leave with you. Leave it as you find it. Super important. As a preserve, we want this to kind of stay preserved and conserved the way that it is for all of our users. And so if you're out here and you find something really cool like a deer antler shed or a really awesome rock, it's appropriate to leave that behind and not take it with you so that it's there for the environment and for the next user. Keeping wildlife wild, and then sharing our trails and managing your pet. So we'll get into those in a little more detail once we get started. There is one that doesn't really relate to us, being careful with fire, because we don't allow fire out on our preserves, campfires or anything like that. But you know, wildfire would be devastating to this wooded area, and so adjoining campgrounds or neighboring parks and places that do allow fires, it's cognizant for us to just mention being responsible with our fires and putting those all the way out. So what we're going to do now is grab some trash bags, and we are actually going to head down the history trail and see if we can find some litter and other things to pick up. Just go ahead and try to find some signs of this behavior that we've gotten reports of.
We are about to take a little walk down our history trail. This is one of the shorter sections of trail out here at Bundy Hill Preserve. And because it's kind of a trail that is friendly to all different types of users, we have noticed an uptick in the amount of litter seen on this trail. So we're gonna head out there, try to find some,
preferably zero trash.
Yeah.
It takes a cigarette butt like years to break down, yeah. Oh, another cigarette butt. It's looking like a lot of cigarette butts.
These are fresh too. Like, they look like they were put here yesterday.
So it's really actually not looking as bad, which is good.
One of the principles of Leave No Trace is being considerate of other visitors. As you can see here, we have a nice bench that we installed pretty recently, and this might be a nice spot where visitors could sit and take a little relaxing break from their hike. Whether someone is hanging out here or on the trail, it's really important to just be considerate of others out here at the preserve. So we really recommend doing things like not having music from portable speakers, trying to keep your conversations to a proper level of volume, and also if you do have a dog with you, keeping them on a leash if there's others around. Just things that are respectful to those around you.
The sign here says habitat restoration in progress, and if you look at the trail, or what used to be the trail I should say, you can see there's purposefully been placed logs, sticks, brush over the trail to deter use and to kind of cover that back over with natural vegetation and kind of some deteriorating natural substances, so that eventually what used to be a trail here will be covered back over. If you look at this trail from a trail building standpoint, it's very steep, straight up the hill, erosion wise, and then also just recreational user wise. It's not super friendly for sustainability or for the user. So it made more sense to kind of reroute the trail, and you can see here how clear this trail is as opposed to the restoration area trail. So if you see a sign like this, even though you can still see the old trail, we highly recommend please avoid that area. Let the restoration process run its course and use this trail. It's going to be a lot more fun, a lot less intense of an uphill, and honestly a lot more scenic too. If we look this way towards the meadow, you can actually see part of an existing trail here too. And all of our trails basically are built to be sustainable. They're built to be enjoyable. So one of the Leave No Trace principles is traveling on durable surfaces. So basically the trail is built to be that durable surface so that we're not tromping over vegetation, possibly rare plants, disturbing wildlife bedding areas, nests, things like that. So traveling on durable surfaces. Another aspect of that would be, for example, if you were out here with a large group and you wanted to run through the meadow, you would make much smaller impact to spread out and each take a different path through the meadow than to kind of cut one trail one behind the other. So if you do want to pass through this area and go off trail, that's the best way to do that. Just kind of fan out and everybody leaves much less of an impact that way. What do we have here?
Is that a robin's egg?
Yes, an opened, hatched robin's egg.
This should just turn into our nature show.
Very cool. Hopefully that little birdie survived.
That's like a very deep colored one.
Yeah, and these stand out so much because everything's brown and green and then you see this amazing blue. Your eye just goes right to it. Pretty cool. I almost thought it was a piece of trash.
Yeah. Just to reiterate some of the things we've talked about already with staying on durable surfaces, here we have an example of a bench cut portion of the trail that we built last summer. It's built specifically this way to help keep a sustainable trail. The reason that this trail was built like this, as you can see this slope here that was kind of cut into the bank and then a more gradual outslope, that's to allow for a prevention of extreme erosion instead of having water run straight down a trail that maybe came straight down from the top of the hill and kind of gave it a more gradual decline. So those reasons are why we recommend just staying on the trail as we've designed it.
You know, eventually this will break down and go back into the environment. And honestly, animals, you can actually see gnaw marks along the bone. So animals, porcupines, things like that, will actually gnaw on bones and sheds and get minerals out of them. And so even though it doesn't seem like a big deal to take this, I mean, it is still part of the natural environment. And so, you know, it's better to leave it out here and just let it run its cycle with nature. But pretty cool to pick it up and look at it and kind of just check it out, see the gnaw marks. It's a hollow bone, so it's kind of cool to see the inside of it. But then we'll just put it right back. So we've got another restoration area here. This one's a lot further along in the process than the last one we looked at, whereas if there wasn't a sign you would almost not even be able to tell that there had ever been a trail there. And that's the idea with all of these restoration spots, is that eventually we want it to just go back to the natural habitat and kind of have that trail completely covered over. So eventually that sign could come out and you'd never know anything was there. In Michigan, things happen pretty fast too. The elements are pretty harsh and there's a lot of vegetation, and so the cycle of nature kind of happens on a visible scale as opposed to like a rock breaking down in the Arizona desert. It's all just relative to whatever the goal of the restoration is, and then whatever environment you're in and how long it takes to take back over the human impacts. So there's another, this could have even been what we call a social trail, which would be, for example, CWC, or if you were at a state park or whatever, the organization that owns the property didn't put the trail there, but people wanted to go explore over there. And so just from recreational use, a trail pops up, that would be a social trail. So this could be either of those things. It could be just a social trail. It could be a wildlife trail where deer are passing through here. But more than likely, it's just been restored over the years and hasn't been used in a while. So we see quite a few examples of that out here at Bundy Hill. We're gonna take this ridge trail across and head down look for some more litter. So I didn't even know there was a geocache out here. If you come over here, you can see there's an official geocache label on it. I had no idea it was out here. So here we are thinking we find litter, and it's a geocache. If you were out here just hiking or whatever, and we don't have any bathrooms, so if you needed to go to the bathroom just in the woods or whatever, it's crazy to think about it, and it doesn't happen on a really small scale. It has to be happening on kind of a larger scale. But let's say that everybody who was out here stopped and peed on this rock. Eventually, salts from urine would build up on this rock to the point where animals would actually be attracted to that as a salt lick, basically, because that's a prevalent mineral in human urine. And so we've seen examples in park settings and things where people were always peeing on the same tree and animals actually started gnawing away at that tree. So even though it's not a huge deal out here, it's still something to be aware of. Is, you know, even something as simple as just peeing out in the woods, it can have an effect. And so we always just want to be mindful of getting away from the trail and not always using the same spot to go to the bathroom if we're going to the bathroom in the woods. And like I said, it seems minor and it's minimal out here, but you know, take that with you wherever you go and just kind of remember that human waste is still adding an impact to the environment, even if you think, oh, it was just me one time. So beech trees, poor beech trees, are historically abused because they have this smooth, amazing canvas-like bark. And so we can see here, super fresh, 2019, still hasn't even really like healed over. Someone has carved initials and the letter in there. So I'm all for making a memory in a place, but how easy is it? We mostly all have our cell phones on us nowadays. So literally, you know, you could just whip your phone out and take a selfie right here or do a landscape shot instead of carving into this tree and permanently damaging the tree. And so some people might think, well, let's not be over dramatic. You're not going to kill the tree by carving into this. But so the tree's bark is the best analogy that I can give to compare would be like our skin. And so as long as our skin is intact and covering our bodies, it's protecting us and it's functioning as an organ. Same thing with tree's bark. As soon as we've carved into it and cut it open and slashed into it, we're inviting infection and diseases and potentially insects that are going to bore into this tree. And so the carving itself might not kill the tree, but it's inviting damage to start happening to the tree. It's also encouraging other people to say, hey, somebody did this before, and so I'm going to go ahead and add mine. Next thing you know, this whole tree is covered in carvings and its health is going to rapidly deteriorate. So, you know, we love that people are getting out here and enjoying the preserves, but please leave it as you found it, and don't carve your name into trees. And also from a visitor standpoint, when I'm hiking and enjoying nature, this just kind of interrupted my kind of zen that I had going on, because now I'm seeing this sign of human impact and it's taking me out of that really like natural zone. And so it affects the aesthetic and it also affects the health of the environment. And so it's just best to not be doing those things. Love the trees and they'll love you back. On the other side of this tree, you can see kind of some healthy human interaction. We have a trail marker here, and kind of best practices is that we've let these screws kind of be lagged out quite a bit so that as this tree grows, it has room to grow, and we also have time to come out and adjust this and move it out further as it grows. By allowing this tree room to grow between the trail marker, we're letting it have a chance at success, and we're utilizing it as a sign marker without really causing it any permanent damage. This property is actually tucked in and surrounded by private property, and so not only being respectful out here for the environment and for other visitors to this preserve, but just remembering that there are people that have their homes and their private property surrounding this area. And so staying on the preserve and following these leave no trace principles is respectful to the entire community of this preserve and not just the preserve itself. Going back to that lake, if you got to go in the woods, there's your best friend right there. Mullen is the name of that nature's toilet paper.
Here's just another example of an area on the trail where it might be tempting to create a social trail.
Actually pleased to report that we didn't find as much litter as we thought we would, mainly cigarette butts, which take a lot longer to break down than you would imagine. If you can somehow carry those out with you, put them in your pocket or whatever. Another point with cigarette butts, we briefly touched on wildfire before. It's been a pretty wet spring, so the chances of that are rare, but you know, it could still happen, and it's happened in states like California and Arizona, and so I would hate to see something so sad happen out in our beautiful Bundy Hills woods. So if you can take your cigarette butts out with you, that would be exponentially better than throwing them on the trail. Overall, we didn't see too much litter, which is great news. We talked about a lot of good leave no trace points, respecting wildlife and giving them their distance, taking pictures rather than, you know, collecting items, not carving into trees, all sorts of different things that we covered. And the gist of this is not to bully you or belittle you or even to tell you what to do or how to act. We just want to spread some knowledge, spread some love for the environment, and let people know that, hey, we love that you're getting out here and enjoying these preserves, and let's just do every little bit extra that we can to make sure that they stay beautiful and that everyone has an enjoyable experience when they come out here. And as a conservancy and as recreational users, we appreciate that so much. Thank you, and let us know if you have any questions about Leave No Trace. We're more than happy to talk about it one-on-one.